Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome back, and welcome to my top 10 tips for buying a guitar for a beginner. Okay, acoustic or electric. So, let's get on with this. I actually wrote down a list, something I normally don't do. Don't have a teleprompter, it'd be kind of handy actually. Anyway, so first on my list and foremost is the looks. If it don't have it, keep moving, because looks are very important to a player. So whether there's a little child involved that you're trying to get into guitar, or an adult or a teenager, whatever, looks make a difference. If it doesn't look appealing where you gotta go, I gotta play that, okay, then they're not gonna touch it. That is a fact. Believe it or not, it is a fact. I've been through this. I've been teaching for pretty close to 30 years now. And I've taught a lot of students, and I've seen it all, okay? They get these guitars that, kind of thing, and they really aren't that interested, right? Or they got an electric and they should have been into an acoustic, but the parents make mistakes, right? But how do you correct this? It's very hard, because most parents don't want to correct their mistake. They just figure, well, they'll get to like it or whatever, and blah, blah, blah. I've heard all the excuses from parents too, believe me. And, I've also, as a result, had to cut a lot of students. Why am I going to sit there, waste my time and their money, try to teach their child that doesn't even want to play that particular instrument? They want to play something different, right? So, what can you do? Size and proper fit. If the guitar does not physically fit the person, this is a problem, okay? You don't grow into a guitar. Salespeople at stores, I don't care what store it is, will always try and convince you to spend X amount of money and they can grow into it. Wrong, okay? Again, I've been through it all, folks, okay? And there's no kid that grows into this when they are only about 6 years old. It doesn't happen. All right? If they can't get their hands around the neck, this is a problem. You've got to be able to do kind of like a grip like this and get around this neck. If you can't, you're going to struggle. If you're like this, because basically you are, in order to even get contact, this is a problem. You've got to be able to hit the strings, all right? So you can't grow into the guitar. And they can't be playing slouched either, because this is bad posture and bad for strumming, among other things, okay? So a proper fitting sized guitar is what you need. Now, currently I'm venturing into the world of teaching ukulele, something new, okay? Not that it's hard, because I'm a guitar player, so going to uke is actually pretty simple. It's actually a lot easier than I thought it would be. But I'm going to be teaching my pastor's daughter and the dad, pastor's husband, okay? I'm going to be teaching them ukulele. Now, turns out we wanted to get the daughter into guitar, but there's no guitar that man makes that's small enough for this little 3-year-old to be able to play. All the necks are too wide, too long, other issues, okay? So we're going to start with ukulele. Then later on, if she wants to get into guitar, then she could transition into guitar actually remotely easily for the most part. Okay, because you're going to have a few extra strings to deal with and different chord positions, obviously. But it's a transition that can take place. Meanwhile, at least we have a suitable instrument that the child can actually get their hand around and will be able to play. So this is a very key thing, okay? Has to fit the person. Setup. Back with the guitar. Low action. Now, I consider this to be not high but not low on my Taylor, okay? It's reasonable enough. I like it. If I had my way, it would be a heck of a lot lower. Unfortunately, because of the design of the guitar, I can't get it too much lower. I could get it probably a smidge lower, and that'd be about it. But I adore low action. Why? Because it's so easy to press the strings, man. Okay, that's why I like a low action. Also, for electric guitars, I like a low action because for me, it's easier to bend strings. My Gibson Les Paul is set up extremely low, and I can bend 2.5 steps, and that's a lot of bending, okay? So when you figure out going from, say, F to F sharp to G sharp, okay, and then into A, I can really bend the snot out of those strings really well, and no breakages, okay? So I've got a really sick low action, and no buzzing either, and that's the important thing. You have to have the action set as low as possible without any kind of buzzing. The other thing of why you need a low action is, again, it's easier to press down on the strings. Even on an acoustic, a low action is very key. Now, later on when you become a really good player, if you want a higher action, you would prefer it, then by all means, knock yourself silly. But at first, give yourself a better fighting chance, too, at continuing to want to play. Because too high of an action is a big turnoff, especially on acoustics. Acoustics are the worst for it because they're already harder to press down than an electric, even with a low action, but they're a lot easier with a lower action than with a factory action setup or a higher action. Okay, so also very much avoid cheap guitars. Don't go too cheap, but nowadays you can buy some really inexpensive guitars at music stores, which we'll get to, that are extremely good guitars. Okay, technology's come a long way in the last 30 odd plus years. Okay, back in 1984-85, I bought a Yamaha acoustic. It was a what was it, a 410 or a 411 SLA, one of the two, left-handed of course, for me anyway. And we'll get to that too. So actually we're going to be up to about 11 or 12 things. Anyways, with that guitar back then was like, 450, I think it was about 459 or something like that. It was expensive. But the action was actually a lot higher than my Taylor is. Now it could have been lowered, which is fine, but I dealt with it. I was already been a player for a couple of years, so to me it didn't really bother me that the action was a little higher. But it also, it wasn't a high-end guitar for $500, right? Left-handed guitars were notoriously way more money than the same thing in a lefty, and we pretty much got pretty poor quality at the same time. Nowadays, for $200, you can get a Yamaha that kicks butt. It's an intermediate level playing guitar, sick low action, sounds beautiful, fit finish is awesome. Okay, Yamaha guitars they're really good guitars. Okay, there are better guitars out there than Yamaha too, obviously, but ching, same as my Taylor, ching. Now, getting on with that, let's continue. A more expensive guitar is not going to make you a better player. More expensive guitar is also not going to encourage you to play more either. Again, key thing on the first of the list is looks. If it looks like garbage to you, just move on because you're not going to be happy. So, and part of that fitting of the guitar, even if you're not buying the guitar that day for the person, especially if you're buying for your kid, teenager or kid, whatever, younger kid, at least take them with you and get them sized up properly to a proper fitting size guitar, because otherwise, again, you will have nothing but grief on your hands. All right. For the electric guitar buyers, pick an amp that sounds best to you. Some people say the tone is in the amp. Actually, that's only partially true. Every amp will sound different because of speaker type, speaker size, wattage output of the amp, etc., etc. Okay? Now, it doesn't mean you go out and you buy a super high-powered, high-wattage amp to get an awesome sound, because that actually doesn't work. Okay? Some amps, even more expensive amps, are actually garbage. Okay? They are the epitome of junk. Cheaper amps can be really good, but can also be garbage too. And expensive amps can also be really good. But you don't want to buy too high of an end at the beginning. Buy something that sounds good. Now, one of the amps I can actually recommend for beginner players, which is a really good amp, and I have one because I teach students, and with the pandemic going, I've been a lot of time without students, so it's kind of like, well, a lot of gear can just go. I mean, this is never going to end, right? But now things are getting back, and it's like, So anyway, the brand name is called Acoustic. If you check it out on my channel, look up Acoustic G20. This is a 20-watt amplifier. Now, in Canada, this amp normally sells for about $140 at Long & McQuade, and it's currently been on sale. I don't know if it still is or not, but you can check. Currently been on sale for $100. That is the best amp for $100 you are ever going to buy for anybody, and it will last them for years. 20 watts, it has a ton of headroom. The clean channel is extremely clean. The dirty channel can get overdrivery, it can get crunchy, or it can get right downright gritty, okay? So it's a 2-channel amp, 10-inch speaker in this sucker. Wonderful amp, great for beginners. For $100, you are not going to go wrong. Okay, and you get it clean and dirty right away. So, and if you pay attention to the manual of different EQ settings and stuff, you can get different types of genres of tones out of it as well, and still not need any pedals, which no electric guitar player in the beginning should have any pedals, period, because they're not going to help you. All right, but if you got clean and dirty, at least you got some options there. All right, so picking the amp that sounds best to you. Part of that too is pickups are going to sound different on every different amp. Okay, it's not just about the amp, it's the pickups too. So if you like the looks of the guitar, okay, for example, and that's what you're going to end up getting in the end, okay, it's going to have either humbucker pickups or single coil pickups. The difference is, and yeah, we're getting into more here, the list is going to go on. Sorry, these things pop up in your brain while you're doing a video. Pickups, you have humbuckers and you have single coils. Humbuckers, they buck the hum, in other words, okay, for one. So they're quieter, but they're also ideal for rock and metal and jazz and blues, okay. Also ideal for a lot of clean stuff too. And whereas your single coils, they're more brittle, they're more glassy, they're brighter, great for playing blues as well. Awesome for country, bluegrass stuff, okay? Light rock to maybe some medium kind of rock stuff, but otherwise, that's about it. So if you're a headbanger, don't buy something with single coils in it, unless it's like an HSS or an HSH configuration. So humbucker single coil humbucker or humbucker single, okay? But otherwise, stick with straight out humbuckers if you're going to be playing a lot of metal music, because 2 humbuckers rules for that. Anyways, that's just a little bit to touch on this. Strings change the sound. Now, every single guitar that you pull off that wall, I guarantee you those strings suck. Okay, they're factory strings. They generally suck. It's a rare occasion that you will ever get good strings, unless you bought a Taylor, of course, for an acoustic. They always have great factory strings because Taylor uses Elixir Nano Web phosphorus-coated bronze strings. Phosphorus bronze coated strings. They're a 1253 gauge. Now, of course, we're not buying a Taylor, so don't worry about it. So let's look at all the other guitars. The strings suck. Buy a new set of strings. First off, if you liked the sound of that guitar when you picked it up, for an acoustic or an electric, make sure the salesperson tells you exactly what strings are on there for string gauge and for string make. So who's the maker of the strings? D'Addario, Elixir, whoever, right? Get those same strings, because that's what creates the sound from that guitar that you appreciated with that amp, okay? Strings, if you change to a different brand or a different type, different gauge, this also changes the sound drastically, okay, on any guitar, electric or acoustic. We've covered the low action already. Never buy online if you can help it, okay? Don't do your shopping online. You have no idea what you're getting. And if you're looking at a guitar where you need to fit it to a person, obviously, buying it online is actually stupid. And the return process can be either it ain't going to happen, or it's going to be a real pain in the butt and extra expensive to your pocket. So do yourself a favor. As long as you can get to a music store, even if you have to drive 2 or 3 hours because of where you live, get to a music store, okay? Don't buy online at the beginning. If you want to buy online later on in life when you know what you're doing, fine, okay? But until then, as beginners, do not buy guitars online, because this can go against you very badly. Because some people say, oh, that's $200, and nowadays he said that was great technology. It doesn't always work that way, okay? Great technology with Yamaha, great technology with a lot of companies. But you start looking at companies like Donor and Denver and so on. Okay, I mean, Denver has some pretty decent guitars for beginners, but some of them really suck too at the same time, right? But when you start buying these off brands, this can be a very big problem, okay? And you can get razor blade fret edges, which is not good for the kid's hands, or a teenager or an adult. So you really should be buying at a music store. For one, your warranty is with that store, okay? That's one. Number two, you at least know you're not buying junk off the wall. It's not garbage, because music stores, especially reputable ones, are not going to sell you garbage. Okay, although stores do meet the requirements of pretty much everybody's budget, they are not going to sell you garbage. But online definitely will. Amazon's full of garbage. Let's see. Never buy at a pawn shop. Why? Well, you're a beginner. You don't know a darn thing about guitars. You don't know what to look for. You haven't got a clue. Do you know what a dented fret is? A dented fret is a worn down fret. Okay, this can cause problems. Now, some wear and tear is not always a bad thing. It still doesn't mean you're going to buzz, but you don't want to buy somebody else's problem. Okay? I shop at pawn shops for guitars when I want a project, because I know that 99% of the guitars in that pawn shop are always garbage waiting to be reborn, okay? And I know that I can usually get them for a really decent price. Sometimes, not so much, but a lot of times, yes. I've bought guitars from the pawn shop for literally $30, okay? But what was wrong with it for $30? Well, the strings were shot, the tuners were cheap garbage, they had to be replaced. And I wanted it for a project anyways, so I did a strip down, repaint, retune, refretted the whole thing, because I have the tools, I have the equipment, and it's my time and my energy, so hey, this is something for me to do. And it also helped do some videos. So, to show you guys stuff. But, so sometimes I will shop at a pawn shop, but a lot of times I won't. Even recently I went looking for another guitar. I was actually after a right-handed guitar. Lo and behold, I didn't end up with a right-handed guitar. I ended up with, in the end, my old Super Strat back, which was kind of cool. But I couldn't find something within my $200 budget at the store. I couldn't find it at the pawn shop for the $200 budget, because this is all I wanted to spend, and it's all I had in my pocket too, so that's definitely all I wanted to spend. Because I can play left-handed and right-handed, and I want another right-handed guitar. It's been a while. And because I've been kind of on and off, give up, I'm better at left-handed anyways. But now I'm back in a phase again where I'm recollecting guitars again, and I'm kind of thinking, well, it'd be nice to have a half-decent acoustic. So I did find one for about $230, I think it was, at Long McQuaid. And brand new, Yamaha, of course, beautiful guitar, and it'll get the job done. That's all that counts, right? But it is a beautiful guitar nonetheless. It plays like a dream. It's awesome. So $230, I'm definitely in when I collect the rest of the cash. In the meantime, I spent my money on other stuff, including getting my old Super Strat back, which is on the wall behind me. You can see it looks like a Stratocaster. Three pickups in a row there behind us. That's my Super Strat. And I built this thing from a Fender Affinity. And beautiful guitar, by the way. Affinities are great little guitars, great for beginners, great for even intermediate players. Even I've gigged with that thing, okay? So, I mean, it's not that bad of a guitar. So you don't need to spend a pile of money on a guitar to gig with. But that's a great guitar. Now, it is a full-size adult guitar, but they do make versions of the Strat in a 3/4 size, which is great for, I'd say, about 8 years old and up. Okay, is about where that goes for 3/4 size guitars. It's very hard to find half-size guitars for kids. It really is. So yeah, it looks like we've covered pretty much everything here. Other than the other piece of advice I could definitely give you, do not take lessons online, YouTube or otherwise. It ain't going to help you. More people fail than they succeed by learning off YouTube. A teacher cannot correct your mistakes if you're relying on videos. So you have to actually and should actually get a real teacher, at least in the beginning. It's not that you can't learn off YouTube, but beginners can't really learn that well off of YouTube. Like I said, statistically, there are more people that fail at guitar learning on YouTube and other sites than those who actually succeed. Okay? And it had nothing to do with the fact that they couldn't play guitar. It's the fact that they can't learn right because they're not being taught. You're being shown things. It's like if I sit here, and I know I'm going to catch heck for this because I'm actually going to do some ukulele videos for people. But, if you take your first finger here, down on the first string, your next finger here, over here, and here, this is a D chord. Okay? And it sounds like this. This is a D chord. Simple. Okay? So, that's fine to show somebody that. But What about their curvature? What about their hand curvature? Are they doing it correctly? I'm doing it correctly. Okay? But you may be doing this. And this is wrong. You can still play the chord, but you're kind of like this, like, and the teacher on screen can't. So when you try and get into another chord, you're like this. Oh, this hurts my arm, and people whine and complain for a good reason. They're doing it all wrong. And they're not actually paying even attention to the video. They're not properly watching the instructor, which is another problem too. But either way, even if they did, it's still hard to see what the actual angles are when you're looking at somebody on a screen. Okay? It's very difficult. So this is what causes more failures than success for YouTube with people trying to learn guitar on YouTube. Right? But there is statistically a higher failure rate because a lot of people are either they don't have the money for lessons. Wow. There's a lot of teachers out there that'll teach you even cheap. You just got to find them, okay? But, even if you took a lesson once a month, who does not have $20 once a month for a lesson, okay? Seriously, if you could afford the guitar, then you can afford a $20 lesson once a month. And that would be enough to get you going at least, and that's a thing, right? So... And I would look at a teacher that teaches by the hour than a half an hour because you learn nothing in a half hour. All my students, regardless of age, are stuck with me for 1 full hour because by the time they get in here, set up their stuff, tune up their guitar, we've wasted almost half an hour, okay? That's just the way it goes. Whether it's a kid or an adult, doesn't matter, okay? Go through this all the time. So I always do 1 hour lessons. Regardless, and I charge currently $20 an hour, all right? So, and I think that's more than fair. There are more expensive teachers out there charging upwards $60, $80, $100 an hour for lessons, which is absolutely kind of ludicrous in my world, but hey, teach their own. I don't really care. It's up to them. But give yourself the best chance possible at learning the instrument. Give the student who you are wanting to see get into guitar the best chance possible for learning. Okay, so a real teacher makes a difference in the beginning. At least for a year or two, then send them off on their own if at all possible. Because everybody learns at a different rate too, which is another thing. If you have a student that's much slower, then they're going to be in lessons longer, which is fine. It's not a big deal. They will catch on eventually. And it's not a waste, especially if they're making a lot of progress. Because progress is what you want. So, that definitely, in my opinion, I think really covers everything that we need to. I could think of probably, 20 or 30 other things for beginners, but I think this is more than enough to chew on for now. If you have questions, leave them in the comments boxes below. If you live in Canada, do check out Long McQuaid, by the way. I deal there all the time. I deal with the North Bay location, but you could buy online from them if you wanted to, but please don't, unless it's for accessories. If it's for a guitar, please go into one of their stores. They have at least 100 plus stores by now. They're always opening up new stores all the time. They are the biggest chain in the country, okay? And they have incredibly good deals. In fact, even right now is Gibson month. It's April 5th. You still got another 25 days. Gibson month is on, so if you are more of an experienced player, all the Gibson and all the Epiphone guitars are on a really great finance deal. Plus they have other little perks where you can get gift cards with certain guitars, that sort of thing. Then you can go into 3-year financing, that sort of deal. Or you can just buy, a Jackson or a Kramer or a Fender or a Gretsch or this or that or the other thing. They have lots of choices, okay? And if they don't have what you're looking for in the particular store you're in, ask them to look at one of the other stores and have it brought in, okay? Or if it's something that needs to be actually ordered, they can do that too, okay? As long as it's something that they carry, you're good to rock. And they do carry a lot, okay? So you should be good to go there for all your musical needs, even if you're into trombone or saxophone or piano or whatever. They got you covered. And yes, they do also offer lessons too. If you want to get lessons at Long McQuaid, you can do that as well. Anyways, and there's other music stores too. So I hope this list helps you guys out. And let me know what you think in the comments below about my list, if you think this is more than fair. But I think that These are the most important key things that you really, really need to be aware of when buying an acoustic or electric guitar, especially for a beginner. Until next time, though, thank you so much for watching, and we will catch you on the next one. See ya.